For tuning in. This is a multi platform broadcast of Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say. On today's show, poetry will be uniting the Latino community of Houston, Austin, San Antonio, and we're building a bridge through art to our brothers and sisters in California and Seattle as well, because we're going to have representation from Los Angeles, including Poet Laureate of Los Angeles, Luis Rodriguez, author of some amazing works, including Always Running, Gang Days in LA, and a new poet that has been published through his publishing house called Tia Chucha Press. The new poet, her name is Claudia Castro Luna, and she has a new book coming out, Cipota Under the Moon, which we're going to be happy to bring directly to folks in Texas. So we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to share some poems, but I do want to take some time to set the context because we can't take this moment for granted. I'm Tony Diaz, the Librotraficante. Happy to join you today. And of course, this is one of our layers of broadcast, which is on social media. I want to remind folks that the video will air on fox26houston.com. The audio will air on 90.1 FM KPFT's Houston's community station. This is, of course, where our broadcast histories began, our ascent. And of course, we have the podcast now, which you can find wherever you find your favorite podcasts. But we also do it the old fashioned way. We come to you in person. And I think that's a big deal right now. Of course, just so you know, I am triple vaxxed and I've got the booster coming. And of course, we practice social distancing. I'm talking to you from Texas, where masks are optional. So I'll leave that there. But we've been very careful as we convene with folks. But we're in a part of the year in our movement where we are meeting up with individuals and making sure that we can get the poetry and literature out. What's new is that we are taking the work that's been accomplished at the Latino Bookstore in San Antonio and expanding it. So the Tri City Tour is going to follow the track of the Librotraficante caravans of banned books. So we've laid the foundation with that work, but we don't want to be banned forever. And the idea of banning our history or culture or any BIPOC artist or writer's culture should not be the gesture that shapes all of our work. So we're going to continue working with these communities, all these great folks that we've been working with during a crisis, but we're taking it to this new phase where we're building the steps so that our community has access to its history, art, and culture from now on. I am going to mention some different entities that we call Librotraficante underground libraries, or we just call them underground libraries. And uh, just to kind of quickly give you an idea of what that means, I want you to keep in mind that this does not mean that this replaces your conventional libraries, not at all. Think of these as starter libraries. And we started this practice back in 2012 when Arizona right wing officials banned Mexican American studies. That's when a group of us, five folks from Houston, including myself, and we're all veterans of an organization, Nuestra Palabra, Latino Writers Having Their Say, we formed the Librotraficante Caravan to smuggle the books that were banned in Arizona back into Arizona. But we created these underground libraries throughout the Southwest. And here's what that means. We wanted to make sure that folks from our communities had access to books beyond the whim of administration. And we said this 10 years ago. Since that time, that terrible ban of Mexican American studies has been overturned, and applause to the people of Arizona, the people of Tucson who led that fight and showed us as Tejanos how to stand up to forces that wanted to erase our history. And it's powerful to say that our community came together and overturned that racist law, which that's what the courts called it. But 10 years later, now that there's other bans, it's clear that librarians and libraries are being attacked. So, at the whim of administrations, books, not just by Latinos this time around, but other communities are being banned as well. So, we've perfected this approach to getting books in the community that we're taking into this new era. Having said that, that sounds a little intense. Here's the fun part. With this new collection of poetry published by Tia Chucha Press, and it's called Cipota Under the Moon. The poet is Claudia Castro Luna. We're going to launch her book here in Texas by visiting all the different sites we've been working with. So on Wednesday, June 29th, we're going to be having an awesome event at the Alta Arts in Gulfton. And a little bit, we're going to have Tammy Rodriguez, who's one of our partners, talk about how we're going to layer that performance, because it's going to have a lot of different Central American performers, artists, visual artists, musicians, English, Spanish, and Spanglish, of course. And we're going to bring in the community to this beautiful art space. It's a brand new art space. And we're going to show them this wide range of artists focusing on the Central American experience, which is fantastic. Now, that's going to be on Wednesday, June 29th at 6 p.m., and it's free. And we'll show the graphic throughout the program. We'll send that to you if you ask for it. We'll also put that in our email blast. If you visit nuestrapalabra.org, you can find out more about it. We'll have a link to the information there as well. But then the next day, on this traveling tour of contraband prose and poetry, we're going to Austin. So on Friday, June 30th at 6 p.m., see the pattern? We're going to have a free reading at the Librotraficante Underground Library in Austin, Texas. And that's located at the La Peña Cultural Center, right there on Congress, which is about a half a mile from the Capitol building. You can step outside of the building and you can see right to the Capitol. You see it right there. It's a fantastic institution run by Cynthia and Libby Lopez, and they've been named Latina icons for Austin. We're so happy to be in that space. When you get there, you get to enjoy visual art. And it says right on the outside, art and tacos. So there's food también. And as you get to the back, they have the beautiful display of the underground library right there. So we're doing it to raise awareness of their art space, the visual art there. If folks can donate books, that's fantastic, especially Claudia's book as well. It's not banned. It's so good it could be banned, but they better not. And that's part of this whole Tri-City tour. The next day is the culmination. And this is the hopes, of course, on Friday, July 1st. It's the first Friday of the month. And the Latino Bookstore in San Antonio hosts its Texas Author Series, which features Texas authors. And of course, we're not the Culture Border Patrol. So any relationship to Texas that we can work with, Claudia will be reading with Elena Silva, who's one of our dear friends as well. She's from Austin. And that's going to be another great event. But what's fantastic is that that's at the Latino Bookstore, which is part of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center complex on 1300 and Guadalupe Street. And of course, that's also at 6 p.m. That's also free. But we're uniting those three cities. We worked with everybody in those areas. We have a new chapter of Nuestra Palabra, which is now in San Antonio. And each city will be celebrating its chapter of Nuestra Palabra. But I think what's also key is that we do have to make sure that we support Tia Chucha Press, Claudia's book, and then also the Latino Bookstore by purchasing the books. And what's key is that the book sales for each of the cities will be provided by the Latino Bookstore. And what's important about that is that previous to this, that was an element that was missing. So this is a great way to take part of the movement home and you can just show up, enjoy it. It's going to be a great show, great poetry, great thinkers. And I think what's really fun is you're going to see so many intellectuals, so many people from the community, some folks who've never been to an art event, an art exhibit, a visual art exhibit, or a poetry reading will go for the first time. You're going to get to hear their reactions. We're going to have experts like some of the other Latina icons from Austin, Dr. Angela Valenzuela, who's a pioneer in the field of Mexican American history. She is a tenured professor at the University of Texas at Austin, and she's been one of our champions. Her book, Subtractive Education, was part of the evidence that helped overturn the banning of Mexican American studies in Arizona. But she's been a big fixture of these events in Austin. So what's great is we're going to introduce some people to this great literature. I love the fact that high school students who attend can meet some of these icons in person and meet them as down-to-earth people. But also, we're going to have some deep discussions that are cutting edge and are ahead of all the intellectual discussions in the nation that are pretty much on par, if not more advanced than what you're going to hear in most college classrooms. So, again, a fantastic Tri-City tour. And this is what I want you to expect from now on. You can get more information at nuestrapalabra.org. And we're going to keep boggling your mind. Right now, I want to bring in one of our new friends, and her name is Tammy Rodriguez. I'm going to bring her on screen right now. And Tammy, thank you so much for getting involved. Appreciate all the work you've done as an activist for decades. And now you've got more time to dedicate to that passion, which is great. So, first of all, thank you for working with us, and thank you for all that you do, especially for the Galton area.
Well, thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to this event.
That's so cool. And I think what's really fascinating is that obviously there's a national corporate media, corporate education, corporate politics that wants to impose a certain meaning of Latino upon us. But at the community level, we know who we are, and it's different for different areas, and there's some things that unite us. I think what's great is we're going to talk about the power of the Central American community, but it's very different in Austin. It's very different in San Antonio. Tell us a little bit about how the Central American and Salvadoran community looks like engulfed in, and some of the things that are happening that shows that it's a very large and burgeoning community now, because that wasn't always the case.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Tony. We have quite a huge diversity in our Gulfton area, and Salvadoran is one of our Latin American cultures that we have, and is pretty strong. I can say from our council member Pollard's office, with David and Francis in that office as representatives, and then we have, like I said, very apartment owners. We have the residents that live here, and we're very much in tune. All Latin American countries are represented in Gulfton. We are known for having immigrants from all over the world that actually come first to Gulfton. And I think we have the most diversified area in not only Houston, but in all of Texas. I really feel that our our voice is now being heard, and it's just people like Claudia that help us, give that word out. For the ones that are silent, it is nice to have people um, from different cultures representing us and having that voice, not only just locally, but nationwide and international. And I appreciate that. We have a long ways to go, but we're heading in the right direction.
That's fantastic. And I do want to remind folks that, of course, let's say Houston is a city of about 2 million folks, at least 45% are quantified as Latino. And I say at least because I'm positive that was an undercount in the last census. So it's up to about 50%. And specifically, we wanted to go out of our way to bring Claudia to Gulfton area, which is in City Council J. You helped us launch Nuestra Palabra City Council J during the shutdown. So this is going to be the first
Yes.
live event for Nuestra Palabra City Council J. And we wanted to make sure we had it in an art space. We wanted to get closer to the community there. And I guess a few things I'd like people to know about Gulfton is that it is a burgeoning community. One thing that I will say is that when I first arrived in Houston, and I arrived to study at the University of Houston Creative Writing Program, and I'm the first Chicano to get a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing in that program's history. But of course, I left the ivory tower and ventured into the community. And I remember working with Crescen, getting the stories of Salvadorans and Guatemalans who were applying for temporary protected status because they were denied political asylum because of wars that were happening in Central America. Which, looking back, now we know that the United States played a role in some of those wars, and the administration at the time was the Reagan administration was not recognizing their appeals for political asylum because it wasn't recognizing these political strifes, these wars, these civil wars that the U.S. had a hand in. So I remember helping translate some of the stories of these family members from Spanish into English. And I had not realized what was going on in El Salvador, in
And
Guatemala,
how
how
deep it
deep
is.
it was.
It
Um,
is
tou touching stories that really are eye opening and was going on during our lifetimes, right?
touching and frightening at the same time. It's to know that someone has to endure that. It's just
Mhm.
really, like I said, now that we have people like Claudia, being a voice and letting them not, and I applaud you, for having the courage to bring out these books, bring out everything to, the suppression of our words to be, hidden. And to bring it back out to the light, it's an enlightenment for everybody right now, and we need it.
I appreciate that, and likewise, I really extol the efforts of you and others to get visual arts in the community to support writers. That makes it welcoming for us to get in there, and the work of Claudia really dramatizes it at the highest aesthetic possible. But I think tells history that even some folks don't know. On the flip side, there's a lot of good news coming from the Gulfton area, including a new management district. You mentioned some folks that are working for the city council representative, and I mentioned that's important because, and also the art arriving. That's important because that means the community has a voice. It's very different in Austin, where those infrastructures, that type of infrastructure doesn't exist, and also in San Antonio, where that infrastructure doesn't exist. Tell us a little bit more about the Gulfton Management District, why that's important, and what that makes possible.
Well, for one, we have been a neighborhood that's been long time forgotten. We fought for the management district, and it was formed when our state representative Hochberg was in office, and this was actually 16 years ago. It wasn't until Councilmember Pollard brought it to council and brought it to life. So we are newly formed, and we just recently started getting our assessment. So for the longest time, I've always been an activist for Gulfton. We were like an eyesore for all of Houston. And what I did not like is that, you have that feeling whenever you're in the family and you can speak about your family, but, somebody else speaks about it, you're not too happy about that. So, and that's how I feel about Gulfton. We're within the Gulfton, we can speak about what's there. But my girls, my family grew up in there, and we never had a problem. Everybody else saw us as an eyesore. And so it's now our time to shine. We will also, change the aspect, the reputation, rebrand, and bring in a different type of community and enhance the beauty that it has. And I always said it was a diamond in the rough. So, like I said, we're about to shine, and with the management district, thank God we are able to do that.
I love it, and we're happy to put nuestro grana de arena, and for us, that's going to be on Wednesday, June 29th, 6 p.m. And It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have poetry, visual arts, photography. Yeri Guevara is another Salvadoran poet from the city that we'll be reading as well. And this is just the beginning of the literary component. There's been murals popping up, there's been pop up events. So this is fantastic. I now want to bring in our other friend, Maria Duran, and she is the director of the Central American Collective. Thank you for joining us. And you're one of our other partners for this great event on Wednesday, June 29th in the Gulfton area. So thank you for coming.
Hi, Tony. Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much
Hi.
for having me here. I'm
Fantastic.
excited.
And let's share other good news. I want to point out too, I'm mentioning these organizations because folks that are new to the work that all of us do may have trouble keeping up with all the names and all the acronyms and all the groups. But I want people to take away is that we're cultural accelerators. And if we
Mhm.
had a business card for every hat we wear, we'd have to have 15 business cards. But but that's what it takes to deliver art in our community. And we
Mhm.
are experts at that. Having said that, Nuestra Palabra is very proud to be the fiscal sponsor for the Central American Collective. And we want to give a shout out to the BIPOC Arts Network Fund that gave one of its grants to the Central American Collective. So, first of all, congratulations on that recognition, Maria.
Yay, no, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I mean, and that's one of the great things about everything that you've been doing, to really move uh, the arts and culture here in Houston, to be able to now have all these different organizations like us, who are able to receive this money and be able to support these types of initiatives, these types of events. And so it's very exciting. And, for us, it's the most important thing for us is really um, to promote, highlight Central American art and culture and our people. And there's a lot of great things, like Tammy was saying, that are happening all over the city, especially in Gulfton, where we have such a huge population of Centro Americanos. And so now to be able to partner with y'all on this event and have a Salvadoran author come in and present. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible to see how much just all the progress that's been happening.
I love it. And I want to talk a little bit about your organization. I do want to remind folks then that this is the Texas Tri City Tour. We're following the path laid out by the Librotraficante's caravans of banned books. And that was occurred during a crisis. Now we're going to the next level. And we want to keep building and building and building. And we look forward to having many events in City Council, Jay. So on Wednesday, June 29th, at a new space, we're going to be having a showcase. Think of it as a showcase. Of course, Claudia Castro Luna, with her book Cipota Under the Sun, will be the featured poet. And her work is in English, Spanish, and Spanglish. It'll be a bilingual evening. So we'll be dropping poetry in English and Spanish, which is fun and exciting for folks that want to tell their comadres, compadres, friends that they can expect to hear
Mhm.
Spanish and English. We're going to have music. We're going to have displays of visual art. I mentioned Yeri Guevara is a Salvadoran poet from here in Houston who'll be presenting some of her work. And then, Maria, you recommended some other writers as well. Mention the writer that you're bringing, and then also talk a little bit about the music we may have. And tell us a little about the Honduran community there in Gulfton.
Okay. Yeah. So really excited because, in the Salvadoran community, I mean, we have a lot of talent, and so Alba Herrera, she's a local writer. She's actually working on her book, but she does poetry. She also writes stories, and there was an event, a community event that a friend hosted a couple of months ago, and she gifted us a poem, and just presented it, and it was just so beautiful. So to be able to have her be part of the event is incredible. And then the Honduran community, we have same thing, a lot of talent. And so there's a group of musicians who are trained musicians from who have gone into some of like the best music programs at the university level, and who are now teaching in different areas here in Houston. And so, we've reached out to them, and so right now we're kind of working through some things, but hopefully we will have a performance, by hopefully we'll have them there to perform, because like you said, we really want to bring in just the different aspects of art and culture into this event, and just enhance, what we're there for, which is the presentation of Cipota Under the Sun. And so it'll be a night full of different art that will really highlight, the beauty of our region.
The other thing I'd like to mention is that there's a typical way for a corporate bookstore to do a book event. This is not the way to do that, because we're taking the art to the community. So this is a book desert, and everywhere we're going is a book desert until now. And we're also changing the way corporate publishing works, and that we're bringing in other writers who might not be published to the corporate publishing world. And we're opening up. So as you mentioned, we are going out of our way to try and find different layers of the community. So it's not as if these are organizations that are at the forefront because they're not heard of. They're doing cutting edge work, brilliant work, but we're going out of our way to curate these cool events. And I want to mention the spot engulfed in is Alta Arts, the Alta Arts. So we're looking forward to working with them. And that is June 29th, 6 p.m. It's a free event. The Alta Arts is at 5412 Ashbrook Drive there in Houston. And then Thursday, June 30th, 6 p.m. for free. It's at La Peña, which is the site of the Librotraficante Underground Library in Austin. That's at 227 Congress Avenue. And that is, as I said, about, I could probably kick a field goal from there to the Capitol building. I probably can't, but I'm just trying to dramatize how close it is. And we hope that you visit that place often as well and donate some of the banned books. What would be great is if someone would like to buy a classroom set of books, especially Claudia's, and donate to perhaps each of these sites so that they can then help get the community to these books as well. And then the culmination will be Friday, July 1st, part of the Texas Author Series at the Latino Bookstore in San Antonio, 1300 Guadalupe Street, which is part of the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. But again, the book sales will be provided by the Latino Bookstore. And there in San Antonio, we had a recent event where Diana Lopez, who is the director of the Southwest Workers Union, that's the site of the Underground Library in San Antonio. And we're going to have collaborations between the Latino Bookstore and the Librotraficante Underground Library in San Antonio, where we have a Nuestra Palabra chapter. But I want to just explain this so that people see how these all work together. This isn't a corporate enterprise. We're all competing against each other to knock each other out of business. Mm-hmm. On the contrary, the more art and community we build, the more there is. And I think that's a win-win. What would be beautiful in San Antonio would be where folks buy books from the Latino Bookstore and donate them to the Underground Library. And what's beautiful then would be teachers know where to go to get a classroom set, or if a community group wants to have a book club and work with them as well. So I mentioned those spots. I tell you what, Tammy, tell me a little bit more about the visual art scene engulfed in, because that's been booming as well. And why do you think it'd be great to have a literary art component as well as the visual art component in the neighborhood?
Well, for one, it complements each other. But right now we have quite a bit of artists Our Gulfton area is now, like I said, it's a diamond in the rough, but it's a gold mine. And we've been very fortunate to have great artists that come through the neighborhood and highlight our culture. So we have murals going out throughout Gulfton at the cusp and in, and we want to continue. We have a vision to have it go through the art, have the biggest art display in Houston by different artists, and just basically want to outline it from border to border line, and just to highlight the different cultures of what is in a 4 mile radius. So,
Love
and
it.
I will go to one more thing. Our census was very shortchanged in our area. Usually, we came out to close to 60,000. I've been in the apartment industry for about 35 years, and the actual manager knows what we have inside of our apartments. So I
Mm,
would say we have like 80,000 in a 4 mile radius in that in
wow.
multicultural. Yes. So I think we have a lot of way to go to highlight all the different cultures in our area. And we have plenty of artists that are interested in bringing that to our neighborhood. Thank God.
You know what? I appreciate you bringing that knowledge to our show because I think people want to separate art from statistics like you're bringing. And there are artists who have the privilege of creating art for art's sake. We do not. I love the knowledge you broke down because you're showing how the last census was an undercount and the way you're measuring is a lot more precise. So there's a lot more folks that need to be attended to. And I'm happy that we can help get art to them so that we can keep building the infrastructure as well. That's awesome. Hey, Maria, tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing in the Gulfton area because I remember you've been doing film events, other literary events, visual arts events. Tell us a little bit about that and how this moment plays a role in that bigger picture.
Yes, no. Over the last couple of years, we've been able to do a couple of different events, like you mentioned, and we have focused on working with some of the organizations there in the Gulfton area. So right now, it's great how all of this has come together because one of the our focuses has been books. We really want to highlight our Central American authors and bring some of those works into classrooms, into libraries, into community spaces, because we know that there's a lot of kids, well, even adults who are just not familiar with our authors, and so this fits perfectly in the focus that we have right now with really highlighting that, and then also building that bridge with the community. And so as we go into the fall and into the next couple of months, we will continue working with community organizations. We're getting into classrooms. So right now we're really targeting Teach Central America Week, which is the first week of October, to host different events where depending on what the educators or the schools are able to do, we will support them with that. It could be, and again, all of this is in the works. We have a couple of authors that we were looking into bringing into market, so that we can have like a little tour and visit different classrooms. And we're also working with some of the Mexican American studies teachers in order to include Central America into their curriculum during that week, be it a lesson, be it a project. And so this all really fits perfectly with that. And I think that it's a great way, in a way, to continue to bring awareness, right, to the authors that are in our community, and not just Central American, but Latinos. And so we're always looking for ways of doing those different partnerships so that we can continue to highlight our culture.
On that note, I do want to give a shout out to some of our other partners, including Tintero Projects, Houston Artists, the Gulfton Super Neighborhood Council, and MantecaHTX.com. and other organizations are jumping on board. If folks would like to get involved, they can send us a note. They can visit nuestrapalabra.org. There's a little contact link there that you can push, and notes will get to us. Additionally, if you are a poet, writer, or someone that wants to support those folks, and you want to get involved in Nuestra Palabra's chapter, either in City Council J or any other City Council district, or Nuestra Palabra Austin or Nuestra Palabra San Antonio, please reach out to us. Of course, we want to be organic to each area, but by the same time, we want to link each other and help each other with ideas, tactics, and what I like is that this Tri-City tour is gonna build a bridge between the three cities, and I like that we can build a bridge with California so that our gente in California knows that Texas has their back and vice versa, and we can build also community among the three cities. So, uh, again, I want to remind folks, hey, this is a multi-platform broadcast for Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say. I'm Tony Diaz, the Librotraficante. Uh, Tammy, on the way out, tell us a little bit more about your group, including how to get more information and maybe some upcoming projects that we can help with.
Well, Galton Citizens Advisory Council is a nonprofit organization that oversees the only one of few storefronts that is left in Houston, and it's a HPD storefront. The nonprofit is basically we do fundraising to pay for all of the things that the city doesn't. So the day-to-day operations, their equipment, things like that, and we do fundraising to raise that. But we also GCAC is basically a organization that bridges HPD with the community. We're trying to empower our Latinos, our different cultures, our different ethnicities there in the neighborhood to not be afraid of HPD and to speak out and empower them to report. One of the biggest issues that we have in Hispanics is domestic violence, family violence, and bullying. And one of the things that the officers, we have more or less like a one-stop shop in the Gulfton storefront, and basically we have Triad and CYD programs that are Harris County that are basically right next to each other in the same office space. So if anybody that's needing any help domestic wise, they go through the back door, get services, and they do not have to go back out to meet their abuser. So we are basically trying to, as we speak, we're handling we are two domestic violence victims and one human trafficking victim. We have been blessed in the last 20 years. We've asked for a domestic violence unit to be in Gulfton because we're pedestrian oriented, and it's very hard for the Latino just to say something, much less go to an actual place to go report it. So we're in the neighborhood, so we're able to outreach a lot of residents, and we infiltrate into the apartment communities because our area consists of nothing but apartment communities. We only have 254 houses in the very center of Gulfton. So in the apartments, to penetrate them, we go in and we actually outsource resources in one feria of resources inside the apartment complexes. And whenever we have family violence units and things, resources in hand, and that's what we are able to reach that abused person or somebody that's having problems, and they're able to come in and speak to somebody without having to be revealed that they're actually seeking help. So we've been doing that in the Gulfton area throughout South Gessner, into the apartment communities, and we have been very successful and have brought people, women, to come and ask for help a little bit more. So we know what we have. We just need to get them, to the place of where they feel secure in order to make that move. So
That's
so
powerful. Commend you on that work. And I do want people to understand that they may think that art has nothing to do with the issues, social issues you just brought up with, but obviously we would argue otherwise because, of course, studies show that folks that are exposed to poetry or literature have more empathy. Likewise, we said that Claudia's poetry will talk about the trauma of coming from El Salvador to the United States, which is not addressed in schools, on mainstream television, etc. And more than anything, it is uplifting to see community members enjoying our art, literature, and culture, and to just tell people that all of our community members have the humanity and intelligence to not just enjoy art, but create their own as well. So thank you for what you do, Tammy. Really excited to work
Thank
with
you.
you. Likewise, Maria, tell us how to get in touch with your organization, find out more, and perhaps any upcoming events that you've got.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, our next event is the one, the one that we're promoting now. So we're really excited to be a part of it and support. And we just invite everybody. We're on Instagram and Facebook, Central American Collective. And yeah, I mean, please reach out to us, and we would love to collaborate. One of the just a quick story. So we've been going out to do different events and highlight books, right? So it's like the ones that I have here behind me, and it's just been wonderful to talk to parents who are so excited, and they're like, oh, this is a Guatemalan author, or oh, this is from El Salvador, or and then share that instantly with their kids. And so we just want to continue to bring more community together. So please reach out to us on social media, and we're also online. So centralamericancollective.com. We'd love to, bring you into the family.
That's great. We wish you continued success. Appreciate you teaming up with us with this, and we look forward to more events. And I do want to thank the Nuestra Palabra team. Roxana Guzman is our multi-platform producer. She creates a lot of the graphics you've seen going on screen if you're watching on the video side. If you're tuning in on the audio side, I want to thank Rodrigo Bravo Jr. for being a brilliant sound engineer. He's very generous with his genius. And then, of course, the whole Nuestra Palabra family throughout the Southwest, throughout the nation. I'm Tony Diaz, a Librotraficante. Happy to join you on all these platforms and looking forward to meeting you in person at one of these art events. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you at the arts. Adios.
Okay.